So today we're talking about emotional availability. So consider this a continuation of the mate selection series that I just wrapped up. At the end of part 3 of that series, I promised that emotional maturity deserved its own stage. So here it is. We talk a lot these days about wanting a partner who is emotionally available. I mean, it's on every dating profile and in every podcast. And I get it. Nobody wants to fall for a stone wall. But I want to make a slightly provocative case. So let me just say it plainly and then spend some time unpacking it. I say, forget emotional availability. What you actually want is emotional responsibility. Now, I don't mean to suggest that availability is invalid. I mean, it's the half of the conversation everyone's already having. But it's the easier half. Responsibility is the part almost nobody names, and it's the part that actually determines whether a relationship will go the distance. So let's talk about the thing under the thing. So, story time. Years ago, I was in the kitchen of one of the sweetest elderly couples I'd ever known, and there on the wall, framed in cheerful needlepoint, was the phrase, "If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy." And I saw it and I laughed out loud. And then, almost in the same breath, something in my chest went quiet because I recognized it. Not as a banal piece of home decor, but as a diagnosis of me. See, I was raised in a happy wife, happy life home. That was the water I swam in. The unspoken rule that a good man's job is to keep his wife's emotional weather sunny, and that if a storm rolled in, he'd failed at something. So when I married at 20 years old, and let's be honest, at 20 I was still a teenager playing dress up in a grown man's clothes, I was running that script without ever having read it. I was so tuned into my wife's emotional state that I had no center of my own, like zero. I was conciliatory to a fault. And the moment her mood dipped past a certain threshold about anything, not even about me, I'd feel a jolt of near panic and lurch into motion. What do I do? How do I fix this? How do I get her back to feeling good again? I was terrified to simply let her have her own experience and stand beside her while she had it. I was certain all the way down that her feelings were mine to manage. I didn't understand the healthier way until we were decades in, and by then the grooves were cut pretty deep. Habits had formed. The pattern was, for all practical purposes, set. And I carry it now not as a regret to wallow in, but as one of the hardest won lessons I've got, which is exactly why I wrote this. Here's the part I couldn't see from the inside. Happy wife, happy life sounds generous, chivalrous even. But it is actually a structurally doomed contract, and it fails everyone who signs it. Here's how it works, or rather how it doesn't work. When a relationship is quietly founded on, I make you feel good, and though we never say the second half out loud, I make you feel good about me, then your partner's happiness becomes the load-bearing wall of the whole house. Which means that the instant they feel something difficult, and surprise they will because they're a human being, the entire structure feels like it's in danger. Their bad mood isn't just a bad mood anymore, it's a threat. So instead of leaning towards them with curiosity, you lunge at the problem to make it stop. Because in this arrangement, their negative emotion is the problem. And here's the cruel twist underneath it. Suppose you're good at it. Suppose you really can jolly them out of every dark mood. All you've proven is that you're willing to keep proving it indefinitely. Because happiness fed this way isn't contentment, it's an appetite. And an appetite doesn't get full, it gets hungry again. You end up on a treadmill of performance that exhausts you and never actually nourishes them, and neither of you can figure out why you're so tired. That's not love. That's one partner taking responsibility for something that was never theirs to carry. So let me plant the flag that this whole series hangs on. Emotional regulation is an inside job. You cannot regulate another person's emotions. He can't do it for her, she can't do it for him. Not because we don't love each other, but because it's simply not how human beings work. Your emotional state is generated inside you and regulated inside you. Full stop. Now, before anyone hears me arguing for two roommates politely ignoring one another's feelings, that is emphatically not what I'm describing. There's a world of difference between regulation and co-regulation. Regulation is the inside job, the one only you can do. Co-regulation is what two people do together on purpose when one of them offers their steady presence to the other. A hand, a held gaze, breathing that slows down in sync, the simple gift of staying in the moment. Co-regulation is one of the best things about being partnered instead of alone, but it only works when the person in the storm still owns the storm. You're inviting your partner in to help you find your footing, not making them responsible for your weather. There are two tells that someone has picked up a responsibility that isn't theirs, and they're mirror images. The first is Mr. Fix-It. He sees her hurting and hears an internal alarm. Uh-oh, I have to fix this. No, my friend, you do not. When you scramble to fix her feelings, you actually leave the room. You exit the present moment where she is and go live in your head where the repair plans are. The most loving thing you can do is often the hardest. Just stay. Let her have the whole feeling all the way through to where it dissipates and releases all on its own. Not stoking it, not ruminating with her, not rehearsing it on a loop, just witnessing it until it passes, the way weather passes. The second tell comes out of the mouth. You made me feel, and then fill in the blank. Small, angry, invisible, sad, whatever. Said as a genuine disclosure, that's fine. But assigned as blame, you made me feel this, therefore this is your fault and yours to fix. That's the same error running in the other direction. It hands your emotional steering wheel to someone else and then blames them for the driving. Now, this cuts both ways, which is where the women watching this come in. When it's your man who's under strain, the failure mode isn't fix-it panic, it's armor. It's that subtle suck it up energy, the telegraphed impatience that says, pull it together, man. Remember, he chose you in part because he believed you could be his safe harbor. But a harbor only works if the water's calm enough to enter. Being his safe place isn't weakness on your part any more than staying present is weakness on his. It's the job. It's the dance. Now, I have to be honest about a genuine tension here because you've probably felt it. Ladies tell their men to open up, be vulnerable, they say. Let us in. And yet, Brené Brown, of all people, found this in her own research. When a man actually does drop his armor and show real fear or weakness, many women recoil from it. One of her mentors put it bluntly, men know women often want them to perform vulnerability, not show the real thing. And men get very good at the performance. There's a whole genre of this online now. The idea that a man being vulnerable is attractive as long as what he reveals is a struggle he's already handled. Not the weakness, the evidence of strength and competence. Because underneath a lot of the asking is a question she may not even know she's carrying. Am I safe with this man? I'm not saying this to let anyone off the hook. I'm saying it because the honest answer to it isn't stoic isolation, but it isn't emotional dumping onto your partner either. The answer for men is brotherhood. It is imperative that you cultivate a small circle of trusted friends, not drinking buddies, but men who sharpen and carry each other and bear your real burdens there. And here's the key. Tell her that's what you're doing. Be forthright. Tell her, this is heavy and I've got a couple of guys I process it with. That's not hiding from her. That's protecting the relationship by not making her the sole load-bearing wall of your own inner life. The same mistake, remember, that happy wife, happy life makes in the other direction. Now, I keep coming back to the ballroom dancing metaphor, and here's the piece of it that I got wrong for years until someone who actually teaches it corrected me. When you watch a great partner dance, whether it's ballroom or West Coast swing or whatever moves you, it looks like the man is throwing the woman around and catching her and holding her up. It looks like one person is the other's balance. But it turns out that is not what's happening. In a real partner dance, each dancer is responsible for their own balance every second. What you're watching isn't rescue. It's two people each holding their own center so completely that they can offer each other something. Tension, momentum, trust, and co-create something beautiful and thrilling and adventurous together. Lose your own balance and you don't borrow your partner's, you both go down. That is emotional responsibility in a single image. Hold your own center, own your own state, and then reach for each other. And when reached for, stay present. That's the only way the dance keeps from collapsing. Which raises the obvious question. If regulation is an inside job, how do you actually get good at it? How do you train the thing that feels, by definition, untrainable? And how do you do it as a couple? Well, that is where we'll pick it up in part 2.